Welcome, everyone, to TechDaily.ai. I'm your host, David, and joining me today to make sense of the wild, interconnected spectrum of today's tech landscape is our expert, Sophia.
It's fantastic to be here. I mean, we really have some truly fascinating ground to cover today.
We absolutely do. But before we get started, a quick note for you listening. You can sponsor this podcast for just $25. Your message will be featured across major platforms like Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and more. If you're interested, visit techdaily.ai to get started today.
Such a great opportunity.
Yeah, it really is. All right, let's get into our mission for today's exploration. You know, human brains are wonderfully adapted for tracking movement on the savannah, but we're notoriously terrible at comprehending modern scale.
Entirely. We just don't have the hardware for it.
Right. And when we look at the world through this, 6-inch glass screen of a smartphone, everything gets flattened. So we are going to explore that contrast today.
It's a pretty sharp contrast, too.
It really is. We're starting high up in the clouds with these massive billion-dollar AI infrastructure deals. And from there, we're working our way down into the murky, sometimes criminal underbelly of the hardware boom.
Which is a wild ride on its own.
Oh, completely. And then we're going to look at the literal physical dangers of the technology sitting in your pocket right now. And finally, we're taking a truly bizarre detour into pop culture and everyday consumer updates just to see how our brains process all of this at once.
It really is the perfect snapshot of what it feels like to be a consumer of information right now. You've got the sublime, the dangerous, and the completely mundane all just competing for our attention.
Yeah, exactly. So let's start with the AI infrastructure gold rush. Because the big news making waves as of today, April 10, 2026, is Coreweave. They just struck this massive cloud computing deal with Anthropic.
Right, and the market reaction has been huge.
It's been insane. Coreweave shares are absolutely surging on this. And what's interesting is, they had their IPO at the NASDAQ over a year ago, back on March 28, 2025.
Yeah, they've been public for a bit.
Right. But this Anthropic partnership, it seems to have flipped a massive switch for the market. Like suddenly everyone gets it.
Well, it validates a major shift in how artificial intelligence is fundamentally built. For a long time, the public focus has heavily leaned toward the software side like the models themselves.
Yeah, like ChatGPT or Claude.
Exactly. We all know Anthropic is pushing the absolute boundaries of what foundational AI can do, creating these massive, highly capable systems. And everyone generally knows that Nvidia is designing the hardware chips required to do the intense math.
Right. Nvidia is always in the headlines.
But what this deal highlights is that increasingly critical middle layer that connects the two.
The middle layer. So you're talking about the actual physical environment where the chips live.
Precisely. I mean, you can't just buy 100,000 high-end Nvidia GPUs, plug them into a standard pre-existing data center, and just expect a frontier AI model to pop out.
It doesn't work like that.
Not at all. The infrastructure itself has to function as a singular, cohesive supercomputer.
Okay, let me test an analogy on you here. So, if Anthropic is trying to build the ultimate highly coordinated brain, they don't just need a massive warehouse to store a bunch of separate, incredibly fast calculators, right?
Right.
They need a specialized, heavily customized factory floor where every single machine is wired together flawlessly. Because if even one of those machines falls out of sync during a massive months-long training run, doesn't the entire process crash?
That is precisely the mechanism at play. It's an issue of network topology and synchronized computation.
Wow.
Yeah. When Anthropic is training a new frontier model, a model with hundreds of billions or even trillions of parameters, the data has to move between thousands of individual GPUs simultaneously.
Like all at the exact same millisecond.
Exactly. And standard cloud providers, historically, they built their data centers to handle millions of small independent tasks. Think about streaming a movie or hosting millions of individual websites. It's a decentralized, fragmented architecture.
So a traditional cloud environment, like what powers an online retail store or a streaming service, it would actually choke if you tried to train a massive AI model on it.
Oh, absolutely.
The communication between the chips simply wouldn't be fast enough.
Yeah, they would spend significantly more time waiting for data to travel across the network cables than actually performing the computations.
That makes a lot of sense.
And Coreweave recognized this severe bottleneck early on. Since they are heavily backed by Nvidia, they essentially built data centers from the ground up, optimized exclusively for this kind of intense synchronized communication.
So they saw the problem before everyone else did.
They did. They use specialized technologies like InfiniBand networking, which allows for ultra-low latency communication between GPUs, and massive liquid cooling system.
Liquid cooling, like just pumping liquid through the server.
Yeah, because you are running thousands of chips at maximum thermal capacity for months at a time without a single break.
It's an entirely different league of engineering. So the market surge we are seeing right now isn't just standard tech hype.
No, not at all.
It's the broader market's realization that purpose-built GPU-dense AI infrastructure is a completely different beast than traditional cloud computing. It's not just a commodity you can rent anywhere.
It's not. It's a massive bottleneck. And whoever controls that specialized infrastructure ultimately dictates the pace of AI development.
Man, that's heavy.
It determines who gets to the finish line first.
Which slams us right into the consequences of that bottleneck.
Yeah.
Because when you have a tech culture that fundamentally believes in moving fast and breaking things,
Right.
and suddenly they hit an unyielding brick wall of supply chain shortages and physical constraints, things get ugly.
Very ugly.
We're seeing this play out in the federal courts right now. A tech company chief financial officer has just been charged with fraud conspiracy in a case explicitly linked to securing Nvidia chips.
It's a fascinating study in corporate psychology, honestly.
It really is.
The collision of the software mentality and hardware scarcity is creating this massive corporate governance crisis. We are talking about C-suite executives, people who have successfully navigated highly regulated financial environments for decades, now risking federal prison over silicon.
It's bonkers. But hasn't the tech industry always had hardware shortages?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember waiting months for early smartphones or gaming consoles.
Sure, yeah.
Why is the desperation so severe now that a CFO would allegedly engage in an outright criminal conspiracy over enterprise hardware?
Well, the stakes today are entirely existential for these companies.
Existential.
Yeah. In the past, if you were late getting a smartphone to market because of a component shortage, you might lose a quarter's revenue, or your stock might take a temporary hit.
A bump in the road, basically.
Exactly. But the winner-takes-all dynamic of AI development is different. If you are late training your AI model because you couldn't secure a specialized cluster of Nvidia chips,
You're just dead in the water.
your entire company might be obsolete in 6 months.
Wow. That implies the normal rules of business conduct are just buckling under the sheer pressure of survival.
They absolutely are.
Like, if I'm an executive and the wait list for these chips is 18 months long, but my board of directors and my investors are demanding AI product launches this quarter, the temptation to cheat the system must be immense.
It's overwhelming. You see, physical assets in the tech world represent an absolute hard limit.
Right.
Software engineers are used to infinite scaling. You write a program, hit deploy, and 1 million people use it instantly with zero marginal cost.
Yeah, it's just code.
But a physical GPU cannot be copy-pasted. So when companies hit this physical wall, we start seeing incredibly desperate behavior.
So what does that desperation actually look like in practice? How does a CFO commit fraud over a computer chip?
Well, we are seeing reports of faked hardware allocations, the creation of elaborate shell companies to bypass international export restrictions.
Shell companies for chips.
Yeah, and executives intentionally inflating their financials to secure priority shipments from suppliers.
That is wild.
They aren't just hoarding a valuable commodity, they are fighting for their corporate lives. It really exposes a deep structural vulnerability in the global economy.
Oh, absolutely.
When a single physical component becomes the absolute cornerstone of the entire tech sector, the pressure to acquire it warps corporate ethics.
It completely shatters the illusion of the pristine, forward-thinking tech utopia.
It really does.
Underneath the sleek, minimalist software interfaces and the lofty mission statements, it's a ruthless, gritty scramble for raw materials and computing power. It's like a modern-day land grab, and executives are literally cutting the fences to get what they need.
And that ruthless scramble for hardware is happening in heavily guarded, climate-controlled server farms. Yet the physical consequences of the technology we actually interact with every day are playing out in much more public, chaotic environments.
Oh man, the reality check of consumer hardware.
Exactly.
Because we can talk about billion-dollar infrastructure and C-suite fraud all day long,
Yeah.
but the technology that most of us actually interact with is just sitting in our pockets or backpacks.
And we rarely think about it.
Never. And recently, that hardware made itself very dangerously known. A woman was taken to the hospital after her power bank caught fire on a train at the Admiralty MRT station.
It is such a striking contrast to the abstract, high-level concepts of artificial intelligence we were just discussing.
It really is.
It forces us to look at the immense amount of blind trust we place in the physical power sources that keep our daily lives running.
That's the wild part to me. We have congressional hearings, international summits, and endless think pieces about the existential dread of super intelligent algorithms potentially taking over human agency.
Right.
But the immediate literal danger is a portable battery spontaneously combusting while you are trapped in an underground metal tube on your morning commute.
It's terrifying when you put it like that.
We are terrified of the software of tomorrow, but the hardware of today is actively exploding.
To understand why that happens, you really have to look at the fundamental engineering compromises of a lithium-ion battery.
Okay, walk me through it.
Well, the goal of consumer tech has always been to pack the maximum possible amount of energy into the absolute smallest, lightest physical space.
Right. Everyone wants a thinner phone.
Exactly. So inside that power bank, you have an anode and a cathode, and they are separated by an incredibly thin, porous piece of plastic, the separator.
So if that microscopic piece of plastic gets damaged, say from dropping your bag or extreme heat or just a tiny manufacturing defect, the positive and negative sides make direct contact.
Yes, and that creates an immediate short circuit.
Ouch.
All that densely packed, stored energy is released instantly as heat. And this triggers a chemical chain reaction known as a thermal runaway.
I always hear that term used in tech circles, usually followed by an apology from a manufacturer.
Yeah, quite often.
But the physical reality of it sounds absolutely terrifying.
It is a catastrophic feedback loop. The initial heat causes the liquid electrolyte inside the battery to break down, which releases highly flammable gases.
Oh.
And then the internal temperature spikes so rapidly and so high that the chemical components actually decompose and start generating their own oxygen.
Wait, their own oxygen?
Yeah. Once a thermal runaway begins, it fundamentally fuels itself. You can't just smother it easily like a normal fire because it doesn't need outside air to keep burning.
Meaning someone's innocent-looking phone charger suddenly turns into a self-sustaining flare in the middle of a crowded train car, filling it with toxic smoke.
That's exactly what happens.
It's a profound, humbling reminder of our physical limits. We haven't seen battery chemistry improve at the same exponential rate as computer chips. Moore's law doesn't apply to lithium.
No, it doesn't. We are still fundamentally reliant on volatile chemical reactions. We marvel at the massive server farms powering the AI revolution, but we completely ignore the unstable energy storage devices we rely on personally, until they fail spectacularly.
We've normalized carrying around highly reactive chemical boxes just for the convenience of staying connected.
We have.
We accept the statistical risk of combustion in exchange for constant access to our digital lives.
Which really illustrates how deeply dependent we are on the continuous flow of information. We're willing to risk a literal fire in our backpacks just to make sure we don't miss an update on our feeds.
And speaking of that flow of information, if you want a perfect snapshot of what it means to be alive and online right now, you just have to look at how we actually consume all these wildly different events.
Well, the timeline.
Yes. You open your app of choice, you scroll past news of a multi-billion-dollar AI cloud IPO, you scroll past federal fraud charges over silicon chips. You see the terrifying reports of a power bank fire on the subway.
All back to back.
Right next to all of that, right below the existential and the explosive, you have the latest in television gossip and local bakery updates.
The modern newsfeed is a truly fascinating psychological environment. It actively resists any traditional sense of categorization or priority.
It's hilarious and baffling at the same time. I mean, here's what is actually sharing the timeline alongside corporate crime and AI breakthroughs today.
I can't wait.
Actor Zhang Ling, who is the star of the incredibly popular C-drama Pursuit of Jade, is currently being ruthlessly mocked online.
Oh, poor guy.
Yeah, apparently his makeup in the show is so heavy that internet commenters are calling him a foundation general.
A foundation general, that's harsh.
Right. And in other completely unrelated but apparently vital news, Paris Baguette's Singapore outlets have officially been halal certified.
So to summarize the modern digital experience, your brain is being asked to process specialized artificial intelligence architecture, federal indictments, transit emergencies, heavy cosmetic application on a television actor, and pastry certifications, all within a matter of seconds.
It makes me love humanity so much. Billions of dollars are moving through the NASDAQ. The fundamental architecture of human knowledge is being rewritten by algorithms.
Yeah.
But the internet is absolutely intensely fixated on a handsome actor wearing too much concealer and where exactly to get a halal croissant.
What you are observing here is the profound effect of a completely flat hierarchy in the modern attention economy.
A flat hierarchy.
Yeah, historically, before the internet, information was heavily curated and hierarchically structured for us.
Oh, like a newspaper.
Exactly. A physical newspaper had a front page dedicated to global events and major financial shifts, and a lifestyle section tucked away in the back. There was a spatial, tangible distinction between important, heavy news and light, entertaining news.
I see where you're going with this. On a digital timeline, everything occupies the exact same screen real estate.
Right.
The pixel dimensions of an article about an Nvidia-backed cloud deal are identical to the pixel dimensions of a viral post about a foundation general. So my brain is essentially processing a massive geopolitical tech shift and a pastry update with the exact same level of visual urgency.
That's the core of it. The algorithmic feed delivering this content does not care about the ontological importance of the information.
It just wants you to click.
It only cares about engagement metrics, what makes you stuck scrolling. But what is truly interesting from a behavioral standpoint is that the human brain actually requires this bizarre juxtaposition.
Wait, you're saying we fundamentally need the trivial stuff mixed in?
We do.
I would have thought the constant barrage of serious, high-stakes news alongside gossip would just short-circuit our attention spans completely.
It is actually the opposite. Think about it. The cognitive load of constantly contemplating the implications of Anthropic's AI models, or the intense fragility of global hardware supply chains, or the literal physical danger of the lithium-ion batteries in our pockets.
It's heavy.
It's utterly exhausting. If your digital feed was exclusively populated by macro-level existential stakes, you would experience severe psychological burnout incredibly quickly.
Wow. So the triviality isn't a bug in the system, it's a feature of human psychology.
Exactly.
We actively crave the updates about Zhang Linny's makeup. We crave the halal pastry news. They serve as necessary cognitive release valves.
That's the reality. We demand both the profound and the mundane to function properly in an environment that is moving at light speed.
That makes total sense.
The multifaceted modern consumer has an appetite for all of it, and the algorithms have simply evolved to mirror our deep psychological need for balance. We need the silly to survive the serious.
It shows that no matter how advanced our technology gets or how complex the supply chains become, we're still fundamentally human.
We really are.
We want the AI to solve the most complex equations in human history, but we also really, really care about the pastries.
We can't let go of the pastries.
Never. Man, what a journey this has been today. We started at the soaring heights of Coreweave's AI infrastructure, exploring the massive, synchronized factory floors powering the future of intelligence.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Then we examined the intense cultural friction and executive desperation that occurs when software mentality crashes into cold, hard physical realities. We brought it down to the visceral, frightening reality of thermal runaways and a power bank on public transit.
A lot of ground covered.
And we wrapped it all up with the beautiful, flattening chaos of our daily digital feeds.
It really paints a complete, if somewhat messy, picture of the technological ecosystem we're navigating right now. And I think there is a broader implication to all of this that leaves us with something important to consider.
What is the final takeaway or that provocative thought you want to leave everyone with today?
Given how intertwined these wildly different scales of technology are, from the massive, invisible, liquid-cooled servers powering the AI cloud, all the way down to the volatile physical battery sitting in your pocket, I want you to ask yourself, are we paying enough attention to the physical infrastructure that actually dictates the boundaries of our lives? Or are we too easily distracted by the seamless digital interfaces and the foundation generals on our screens? The digital world feels like it's infinitely expanding, but it is entirely bound by the very real, very physical constraints of silicon, copper, and lithium. We obsess over the software, but the physical world is still what limits us.
A phenomenal thought to end on. The physical world still holds the reins, even when the digital world is far more entertaining and distracting. Are we blind to the hardware because the software is just too shiny? That is definitely something to mull over the next time you plug your phone into charge or scroll past a massive tech headline. Thank you all for joining us on this exploration today. We've loved putting the pieces together for you. And remember, if you want to stay informed and support what we do, visit TechDaily.ai. Until next time, keep questioning the scale of things.